investors from overseas to come. But then your message to those investors is that all companies operating in Zimbabwe must be majority owned by native Zimbabwean people.
Absolutely.
Now, you read the words coming out of UK, Canadian and other Western businesses inside your country. They are profoundly concerned. The Canadian ambassador saying recently, Canadian businesses deeply concerned with this uncertain business environment. They no longer understand what's expected of them. They are not willing to give up a controlling stake in their companies.
Well, what I could tell you is that our thresholds on indigenization and empowerment are actually lower than what is happening in Qatar, 80%, in Botswana, 80%. To the extent that we are able to tell you that we are not taking that value without placing money on the table. That is the message I think that investors want to know. We are not expropriating. We are going to pay for our value. Parallel to what I'm sharing with you now is the creation of a sovereign wealth fund to which those 51% shares are ceded if they have no value placed on the table. And it is a question of packaging, and to the extent that the government of Zimbabwe is able to streamline its packaging of our empowerment laws, and allow the necessary entities, not politicians, to speak to our investment laws, then we have a way forward.
It's, let's be blunt about it, it's a way for ZANU-PF cronies and the elites to grab control of significant business interests inside your country, isn't it? Particularly in minerals, diamonds. I mean, we've seen it over the last year. That's what's happening.
Well, let's take the land reform, for example. Grant it 10% of cronyism, which you'll never be able to escape from, even your own system here. The lordship system and the ownership of land here reflects cronyism. Let's grant 10 to 20% to the Zimbabwean model, to the Zimbabwean example. Who are the other 290,000 beneficiaries of our land reform? It's ordinary people. And this is the untold story.
That's an interesting numbers game, but who is really benefiting? Listen to the words of James Mupfumi, who is the acting director of the Zimbabwe Centre for Research and Development. He says the indigenization law has been used to allow individuals in the political sphere to penetrate the mining sector in particular and loot minerals. This isn't about community benefit, it's about the benefit of elites at the top of the ruling party.
The law prescribes a 10% shareholding for communities under what we call community share ownership trusts. So the communities are already catered for. But beyond that, I am yet to come across a country where...
Do you know what's happened to particular mines like the Chiadzwa diamond mine, where hang on, just these are important figures. The Treasury gets $8 million out of 28 million in diamond sales. Where do you think the rest, the vast chunk of 20 million of diamond sales actually goes? Whose pockets does it go into?
Well, to be quite honest with you, beyond the need now to go deeper, to pick the conglomerates, the deeper diamonds. The alluvial diamonds are still there, but not as much as they would have been in the past few years. So we want serious investors who are willing to tangle with us in deep mining. We want to go down deeper. And we don't want Mickey Mouse investors who want to come and scoop the overhead and the alluvial diamonds themselves. We want those that are willing to tangle with us in deep mine exploration.
Yeah, and tangoing means that the guys at the top of the party who've taken a stake in some of these mining interests, they do very well, and the foreign mining companies do very well too. The people who don't do very well are the communities that you talk about.
The communities have a 10% stake. Provided for in the law.
That's fair, is it? 10%?
Yes,
yeah?
provided for in the law.
All right, let's talk about another aspect of indigenization. You've defended the policy very stoutly. Even you, correct me if I'm wrong, appear to have some doubts about the way in which tracts of conservancy land, that is, land reserved for wildlife, very important for your tourism industry, has been taken over by ZANU-PF officials, top military chiefs. You've seen it in the Save Valley.
Sure, absolutely.
And Are you happy with that?
And I took a stance on it, which was supported by the president, which was supported by ZANU-PF's highest policy-making body, the Politburo. And they said, everybody get out of the conservancies, because the animals reserve a right to be resettled too. It was a point of principle, a cardinal point of principle that I took as minister in defense of what God also created, which is wildlife.
Yeah,
our big seven is what is going for us as a tourism product.
That in this this sort of game of chicken between the cronies who want to take the land and the wildlife and people like you who say we must protect the wildlife. There's only one winner, by and large, and that is the commercial interests who have ties to the political and military elite. I mean, you can see the results in what is happening to your wildlife. Last year, for example, that terrible incident where more than 300 elephants were lost to poisoning. An extensive investigation showed that senior political figures were tied to the poachers who poisoned those elephants.
We don't have that evidence. It has not been presented. But what I can tell you, where I sit...
Who do you think was behind it?
Where I sit, it is the market. We must deal generically with the market for those products. And the market is in Asia. We must have a conversation with the markets that are driving demand for these products.
Who in your country is behind the poachers who are feeding that market?
What would happen ordinarily is that if you don't fix the governance model properly,
just tell me who you believe is behind the poachers.
To date, we have arrested ordinary people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You've arrested the small fry.
We have arrested ordinary people because they are in conflict with the animals. And we need to find a governance model that is win-win, that accommodates them and their interests. Because we must make sure that even as we resettle these animals, the communities around them are a
If
factor.
I may say so, you have, as a tourism minister who wants to attract visitors to your country, one of the greatest natural assets of which is the wildlife in the national parks, you have an interest in backing people like Johnny Rodriguez, who's chairman of the Zimbabwe Conservation Task Force. Do you know him?
Yes, I know him.
So when he says there is a big cover-up, the people being arrested for poaching are the small fry, the big, dangerous fish are getting off scot-free.
Yes,
and that, he says, is the big businesses and the politicians who are tied to them. What are you doing about it?
He has not come forward with any evidence. And my door is open. The president's door on this matter, which is so intimate to him, is open. The Minister of Environment's door is also open. Rodriguez is like a rabble-rouser. He shouts to the media and he doesn't present the evidence to the authorities.
Here's a piece of evidence that suggests you're not serious. Do you know how many park rangers patrol the 14,000 square kilometres of Hwange National Park?
I know that we've put in a case for a beefing up of the rangers.
How many rangers?
They could be upwards of 3,000.
3,000?
Yeah.
It's actually in the hundreds.
Yeah, it's upwards of 3,000 because they involve.
But there isn't 3,000. There's nowhere near 3,000. In fact, the conservationists say that 10 times the numbers of rangers currently employed are needed to offer any sort of protection to the wildlife that is your national asset.
Those are Rodriguez statistics, which are meant to entice, to put a case for support for his own non-governmental activities.
Before we finish, we must address the future of your country. We've talked about all of the challenges and the problems you currently face. Perhaps the biggest of all is uncertainty about the political direction Zimbabwe is heading in. You've got a president who's been in power for such a long time. He's 90 years old. Nobody believes he can go on forever. It now looks as though his own wife, Grace, would like to be the next president. Do you think that would be good for Zimbabwe?
I don't think there's been an expression of interest to that extent. What I know is that she has been invited by an organ under ZANU-PF called the Women's League to be its next secretary. And the president is yet to affirm that.
Do you defend her on this issue when she said that the Vice President, Joyce Mujuru, should resign immediately and that dogs and fleas would not bother to disturb her carcass?
That is a conversation taking place in the Women's League, and I'm not yet a woman, not even an honorary one.
Well, I wouldn't call it a conversation. What I would say is that Grace Mugabe appears to believe that she is now in position to claim the presidency. There would be a Mugabe dynasty. Would that be good for your country?
As an individual, she has a claim in terms of ambition to the presidency, just like I have it. There's nothing that stops her from expressing ambition because the Constitution of Zimbabwe enshrines those ambitions. And to the extent that she has pronounced them ahead of me and Joe Block back at home, she should not be criminalized for that, because if there's going to be a vacancy in the future, I'm sure there will be competition for it.
And that will be very damaging for Zimbabwe if, as seems likely, it is going to see ZANU-PF tearing itself apart.
No, ZANU-PF is actually a very democratic movement. And it is doing exactly what you do here in the United Kingdom when you approach conventions. Robust debate around issues, robust debate around personalities who are wanting to assume office of one shade or another. And we have learned it from you. It's your Westminster model.
All right. Well, we have to end there. But Walter Mzembi, thank you.
Thank you so much.
HARDtalk.
Thank you, Stephen. It's a pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed.